Hey everybody, welcome back to the 30 minutes of fame. I'm excited about this one. I don't know how I came across Zach, but I found these stories of just okay, when I was 26 years old, I was drunk in a pub 6 nights a week. This guy has interviewed over 165 veterans. It could be more than that from what I now, but 20 20 countries. My goodness. Korean War vet, World War II, Vietnam, men and women from 20 countries. Zach, man, welcome to my show.
Thank you so much, Dave. I appreciate you kind of reaching out. I think it was actually over TikTok and for supporting the videos and yeah, for everything that you do and giving me the opportunity to talk with you today and share some incredible veteran stories. So yeah, thanks so much again for having me on.
So this all started for you when you were pretty young, when you found a box in your grandfather's basement. Wow, take me there. What was that like going through that? Like,
It was pretty incredible. Again, I was living with my parents at the time, and I think I was 21 and or even 22. And again, I found this box with my granddad's medals and some old photos. And knew nothing too much about him. He passed away when I was about three and a half, but they're in black and white. I could tell there were some medals from some type of war. And I asked my mom. I said, "Was a granddad a veteran?" And he said, "Yes. He was a World War II veteran, and he served in Africa, and he was a paratrooper." But that's all. That's all she said because that's all we sort of knew about. Um, Asked my aunts and uncles a couple things about, him. And again, he was in Northern Africa. He has the France and Germany star, and he even served 1 year after World War II in Palestine and Iraq and all the sort of Middle East. So he had this incredible story and but never shared it. So I thought to myself, I was 22 years old at the time. He was born in 1921. The year was 19 or 2021. I thought to myself, I was like, hey, let's see if I can meet a World War II veteran, and that's how, global veteran stories kind of started.
my goodness, we're like 3 minutes in this episode, and my arms are already like what does The Rock do when he points to the hair standing up in his arms?
Yeah.
Uh, it's chilly, man. It's beautiful. I'm just gonna show you this special jersey. I was gonna put it on, but it's like an XXL. I'm swimming right now, but this was given to me from a family member of one of the fallen Canadian soldiers, and because of my filter
Wow.
agreement. This is one of 160 jerseys, and the thing I love about it is that it's the only one without a number on the back. Now you can't really see it, but there's no number
Wow.
because the families didn't want him just to become a number. And to me, that was so powerful, and it kind of reminded me of what you're doing. Like, these. If I've been to every Remembrance Day ceremony since I was 5, and I'm 50. I'll be 51, so about 40 years of ones I can remember. But every year it's like less and less veterans, and I remember seeing like all the World War I veterans, and I was like, oh, they're seeing less now it's the World War II veterans, and now like the ceremony we went to, it's so important what you're doing, just keeping these stories alive. That first time you did an interview with the veteran, like how was that? Like how long did it last? I mean, my goodness, I think I could stay there for hours.
It was pretty incredible. Yeah, again, first interview was a gentleman named Arnold Graham, born December 12th, 1925 in Lakefield, Ontario. It was about 45 minutes or so. And yeah, that interview changed my life. That is one that, like I said, started this whole project. Arnold was a mid-upper gunner on a Wellington and Lancaster bomber plane. He was flying missions over Germany at, 18 years old. And I think he almost did 20 missions, going deep into German territory, couple raids to Berlin. And he's one of the only gunners that was able to shoot down a couple German planes. And, imagine he's 18, 19 years old flying these, missions at 30,000 feet, 30 below zero. So he was my first interview, incredible man, and just passed away last year at the age of 99.
Wow.
That one interview turned into two, turned into five, and then again, you mentioned it earlier, over 160 five veterans from 20 different countries. So I just started calling around to legions, calling around to my local newspapers, and slowly the project grew.
Wow, that's unreal. Have you oh, there's so much I had to ask you, but it's all just my head's just exploding right now. But I know like every Remembrance Day ceremony we'll go talk to veterans and stuff, but it's what was your first female veteran interview like?
It was pretty cool. Again, that was my second ever interview.
Oh well.
Her name was Joyce Foley. Again, a World War II veteran born in England. And I mean, she was just such a character. She was 97 at the time and just full of laughs, full of life, well into her 90s. And yeah, she joined right at 18. She was told that you either have to work in a factory or join the service. And she said the factory didn't appeal to me. So I joined the service, and her role was mainly working office work. She was in the Navy, sorting letters, working at important documents. But again, she met a Canadian while in England and ended up marrying him. And her wedding day was actually on D-Day.
Wow.
And her father wasn't able to attend, so I think they delayed the day by a couple days, if my memory is correct. And again, her father, like I said, landed on I believe it was either Sword or Gold Beach. Again, he was British, so yeah, he landed on D-Day, and she he ended up surviving, and then they intended their wedding, shortly after. But she was incredible. She lived to 100 years old, and one of my favorite ones, and just what a character. Joyce was an amazing woman.
So when you found that box, what was it like? Did you were like, I've got to do something about this? Or instead of just putting the box away and going on like, oh, I'll find out about that later, like what drove that inside you? Like,
It was just really my own curiosity. Like I didn't know too much about him. And I always talk about that. I would love for if anyone gets anything out of this interview or what I'm doing is be curious. Learn about your family history, learn about your family name. You might have a really interesting story or a veteran connection or some type of connection in your family. You never know who you might be related to or linked to. So for me, it was just genuine curiosity. I want to learn about this man that I unfortunately didn't get to know. And that started this huge family. He was born and raised in London, came to Canada, when he was 45 years old, and then started a brand new life, had seven children, the last one being my mom, and then I was the 20th grandchild.
wow.
So, and there's been many, many other kids after that, but I mean, yeah, I mean, he started this brand new life, so it was almost my way of remembering him. And again, all the other veterans I interviewed are because of him. And I want to give veterans the opportunity to share their story because a lot of them, um, yeah, never do.
So when you're done recording these, you move along to the next one, or like, do you give a copy to the family so they already have it to pass down, or is it just, put them online for them to see, watch whenever they want? Like I know I do this podcast so that whenever one day I kick the bucket, my daughter ever misses me, she can come watch some of my craziness on here, right? It's just leaving a legacy. So what does that involve? Like what do you do for the families after you're done these?
Absolutely. So the families get a copy right after the interview's completed. They get all the unedited footage. I do take a couple portraits of the veteran, sometimes holding photos of a younger version of themselves, and then obviously them now. So each family, each interview or veteran gets a copy of the interview. They get these high quality photos. I work with a local school in here in Toronto. Where the high school students actually edit together an edited version of the interview in their high school class, and they also ship a DVD copy. So Crestwood is one of the high schools I work with here in Toronto, and a good friend of mine, Scott Masters, is a history teacher I've been working with for about 3 years now. So every veteran, every interview that I do, they get a copy. A full length interview is posted on my YouTube channel. and then a full write-up is posted on my website as well. So everyone
Beautiful.
can access everything for free.
That's so beautiful. That's so beautiful. I gotta like I mentioned to you before we were talking there about when my daughter was 3.5 at preschool, they decided the whole class was gonna paint poppies for Remembrance Day. And so I went in to pick her up and I look in the wall and this beautifully drawn painting with poppies and I took home the print of it, big 8 by 10. I've got the original on my wall down there. But the first Remembrance Day, I just said to her, like, let's print off a copy. She was 4, so she really didn't gonna do whatever I said anyway. But I'm like, let's give a copy to a veteran. And then next Remembrance Day we did it, and then the one after, and then the one after, and then I posted about it online, and this post went like crazy viral.
Well,
So there's a copy of this print in the U.S. Canadian Embassy in Washington, 4 legions in like London, England somewhere,
no
a
way.
hundred 150 veterans homes that just asked for a print. But why I bring this up is a few years ago we because I let her pick whoever she wants to give it to, right? This is year 4, this will be year 8 coming up in this November. And we gave it to this gentleman and medals galore here. And on the bottom of this painting is my daughter's name, right? Just a big, I wrote it down there. And he's just staring at this name. And his eyes go bloodshot red, and I see one little tear coming out of his face. And he looks at my kid and say, "That was my wife's name."
No way.
And I've got a picture of this. I'll send it to you after, but I captured this moment. It's just because I
Oh
post them
my
every year, right?
gosh.
But it's just
Yeah.
so what's that like for you when you're interviewing a veteran and they start talking about something, you see them start to well up, or it's got to be tough. I don't.
Yeah, I mean as the interviewee, you need to kind of compose yourself, but sometimes it's very, very difficult. There's a couple that really stand out. Jack C. Thomas out of Blenheim, Ontario, like just outside of London. He was in the RCAF, he was a tail gunner, D-Day, Battle of Arnhem, gets shot down, is and hurts his breaks his back, has all these injuries, coming parachuting out of the bailing out of his plane, and is a prisoner of war for 8 months. And he was incredibly emotional talking about that particular battle. And that's one of my personal favorite interviews, and it's again the full interview is posted on my YouTube channel, but that one was pretty incredible. A veteran, 103, never been interviewed, never shared his story.
Uh,
There was nothing online for me to even find. And his grandson, Brian, found my videos on TikTok, shot me a message, and within a month I was in Blem and interviewing him. So
wow.
it was an emotional interview. And I won't even lie, I shed a couple tears as well. I mean, it was pretty incredible. Bill Seyfried out of Guelph, Ontario was another one that comes to mind. He was with the Regina Rifles and at the Battle of the Scheldt, in August of 1944. I mean, that one unit that he was part of, they lost 25 men in one night. He mentioned there's, grenades that dropped right in front of him. He was very, very emotional talking about that as well. And, again, the interviews is not just Canadians. I've interviewed a lot of Americans, a lot of, British, Dutch, Indian, veterans from West Africa and Trinidad, in Australia. So I'm trying to get as many perspectives as possible. Interviewed a B-24 bombardier recently. He was born in Pennsylvania, and he was actually he was in China. So really, really unique stories, but again, some of them are pretty emotional. So it's difficult to go through, but I think it needs to be shared.
Yeah, it's man, I wish I had more time. I just sit down and like just watch back to back to back, but maybe it's everyone that's watching this, there's gonna be a link down there for Zach's channel. Go watch one episode a week, or you know what, even nearer to Remembrance Day, just sit down with your family and watch some of these because I remember man, when I was younger and all the veterans would come in for the Remembrance Day ceremonies. It doesn't happen anymore, but it was just it was one assembly a year that was like I don't know. I just always look forward to. I never had I found out I had two relatives on both my grandfather's sides that were World War II veterans. I found this out like
Wow.
2 years ago.
Wow.
Here I've been running all this charity stuff and sending coffee for troops. I'm like, you think that might have been something you might want to tell your kid that you have relatives that served in wars. But
For sure.
I gotta ask you, so you're a filmmaker yourself. So since you started doing these interviews, what's your take on like watching like military movies like Passchendaele or Saving Private Ryan or stuff like that?
That's a great question. I do remember actually asking one of the D-Day veterans in particular, Gordon Shotlander. Incredible story with him. Jewish, born in England, served in Africa for a year, and then landed on D-Day alongside the Canadians on Juno Beach. And I remember asking him, I said, have you ever watched Saving Private Ryan, and how realistic is the beach scene? And he said, he was 101 years old. I think he was 100 when I interviewed him. And he said, I've heard about it. I've seen a couple seconds or at least a few clips of it. He's like, I can't do it. He said it was that real. And he could just remember subconsciously that it was just that impactful.
No.
Um, I think some movies are more realistic than others, but I know that one, especially for the D-Day veterans I've interviewed, whether it's in the sky or in the Navy or, landing directly running on the beach, they said that's the most realistic.
Hmm.
Um, for sure. Absolutely. But I don't think there's a lot of, different perspectives in movies, in my opinion. There's not much about what the Australians or the New Zealanders did, or not much about the Burma or an Indian campaign, or even the African campaign. So I hope that, you know, anyone watching this, maybe they're a movie producer, I hope there's more movies about those different perspectives. I think that's what we need. The American movies are great, don't get me wrong. They do a great job. They probably got bigger budgets, but I'd love to see some other perspectives as well.
So I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Passchendaele, but
I haven't. No, I haven't
oh,
seen that one.
okay. So that movie was filmed just outside of Calgary here. And
Wow.
so all the extras, the director, he used Canadian Forces active members. So
Wow.
these guys they were going to be put up in hotels and stuff, but no, they put up a tent in the middle of the set and like we're staying here, and they called it Camp Hornberg after one of the fallen soldiers. So I got to go to the premiere for that with like 30 guys that were in the movie. So these are like
Wow.
active Canadian Forces guys that were playing the role of like Passchendaele veterans, and every single one of them said it totally changed their lives. But I mean, that's one for you to check out.
Okay.
It's
Put on the
Canadian. It's
list.
a little cheesy, but there's got that Canadian vibe to it a bit, and like a bad CBC movie some parts. But the action scenes aren't amazing. Um, it shows a lot of the recruitment side where like all these kids were lying about their age so they could go serve, and like
Well,
that whole side from yeah, it's really good. You have to check that out because then I know
absolutely. I'll
if you get
add
a
it to the list.
Passchendaele veteran, um, I wouldn't think there'd be too many of those left around, but you never know.
Yeah.
So, Saving Private Ryan. Oh my goodness, there's so much. So where do you see this going? Like 5, 10 years from now? Do you want to just keep? Would you eventually be interviewing like guys that were in like Iraq and Afghanistan 10 years ago, like the modern day veteran, I guess you'd call it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, right now my main priority is, the veterans that are getting up there in age. But I've naturally progressed. Again, I've interviewed over 100 World War II veterans. I think I did the count the other day. I think it's about 102. World War II veterans. And, I've interviewed probably about 20 or 25 Korean War veterans from Canada, the US, England, and Luxembourg. Believe it or not, they had about 45 soldiers that they served over in Korea. So I was lucky to interview one of them. And as well as South Korea, like a South Korean War veteran. I've also interviewed a few Vietnam War veterans, a very interesting war. Um, and actually a lot of Canadians. I've interviewed about 10 Canadians that jumped the border, served with, either the US Navy or the Marines or the Air Force, whatever it was. and a few Gulf War veterans as well.
No.
So I'm certainly interested in kind of, branching out as the years to come and, maybe write a book one day or, maybe make my own TV series. But for me, it's just, you don't have much time with these veterans left, just trying to write them down, film them and yeah, save as many as I can.
Beautiful. I don't know if you like this is the kind of stuff like there's so much crap on Netflix, but like to see like a whole series dedicated to that, like I don't know. There's so much possibility. I mean, YouTube is pretty much free if you don't mind the ads, so
Yeah.
people there's hours and hours there. And I noticed one thing I came across here is that you've started filming on a phone with a tripod. Do you still use that setup? And you're gonna upgrade or are you set with the
I do still use my iPhone, to be honest with you. There's a couple main reasons I do that is a lot of the veterans I do interview, it's their very, very first time being interviewed or sharing their story, and I try to make the interviews as personal as possible. So, over the time or over the years that I've been doing this, I have upgraded. I've got a better tripod and I have one small light, but I really try to keep it simple. This is the phone. I film on, and I have a little clip-on $20 Amazon mic. So, and again, the main reason I do that, I want to make the veterans feel comfortable. I want them to, not feel that it's this big production. Maybe one day I'll get a nice camera, but I think it works for me and it works for the veterans. They don't feel as intimidated. Or maybe as nervous. I had a couple Korean War veterans that were really, really nervous for the interviews that I've done recently and even in Hamilton. So yeah, I like to keep it simple for sure.
it probably would make them feel comfortable now that I think about it because it's I mean it's just I did an interview with a guy named Daryl Jans. He's just a CTV Calgary legend who was like a news broadcaster for like 40 years.
Well,
And it was like one of my first interviews about my boxing story and all this stuff. But I was so nervous. I was like shaking. I felt like I was gonna pass out. So this he already had the mic hooked on me. So while he's trying to get me hooked up, this guy is pretending he's having problems. But in between these problems, he's just asking me questions. He's like, so this is what it's gonna be like. So this, and then I'm like giving him answers while he's trying to hook me up. And then he's like, as soon as the mic was hooked up, he's like, okay, we're done. I'm like, well, he did the whole interview and I didn't even know.
I love that.
So it
That's a
was his
good pro.
little
That's a
trick to
good
calm me
interviewer.
down. Yeah. So if you ever get someone nervous, just have them sitting there like, oh no, this and.
That's a
I
good
thought
tactic. I love that.
it
That's
was
a great story.
beautiful. And then like he just edited in the audio and put it to my mouth moving and stuff. I don't know what he did, but it was just amazing. I'll never forget that guy. But I got two more questions for you, and then we'll call this an episode.
Fire it away.
If you could ask your grandfather one question now, after talking to all these veterans, what would it be?
Wow. That's a great question. Um, wow. Yeah, I haven't thought about that, to be honest with you. Um, Probably I would ask him probably two questions. One, um, why Canada? Again, born in England, here he had seven kids. Why did he choose to come to Canada? And why did he embrace Canada so much? Like he became a citizen right away, wanted to drink beer and watch hockey and learn how to skate. So I've been told by my mom. So that's probably one question. And um, I think, just how did he go through the war? Like how did he go up every day? And just how did he go about his business in a way? Because again, he was in Northern Africa. I mean, he has the France and Germany star. He jumped on D-Day. I found out recently. Like, just how did he do it? Like, how did he go day to day? Um, I do know one story that is pretty incredible that my uncle told me, who served with my granddad. My uncle was shot down and my granddad pulled him out of this plane. It was a burning plane, and because he was part of like an ambulance regiment as a paratrooper, really unique. So he pulled him out of this burning plane. And then they became best friends, and he brought this guy home and ended up marrying his sister. So that's how he became my uncle. So it was kind of a funny story
Oh,
there, but yeah, I think just. how did he get up every day, and how did he keep moving forward through all, 6 years of the war? He joined when he was 18. So, yeah, that's probably two questions I would ask him. Why Canada, and how did you get through the day to day of war? I mean, what motivated you? And then probably how maybe the first date with my nanny went. Maybe I'd like to ask that because they were married for, gosh, 60 years, 50,
Wow.
50, 55 years or so. You know, 1947, I think they were married. And yeah, what's the secret to a long marriage? I think is probably another question I would ask because I just got married in April. So I always like to,
Oh,
yeah,
I
I
can
always
give
like,
you some tips, but I'm divorced 4 years, so you don't you don't want advice from me. But man, I really respect what you're doing. I love your videos. I we're gonna do something special. I'm gonna get you one of those prints, and then whichever veteran you interview next, I'd like you to just gift it to them. That was your idea.
yeah, I think maybe we can mention it now. I was thinking about um, a gentleman in northern Alberta, William McGregor. Again, he's a Canadian World War II veteran, just turned 103, and he served with the Canadian Army, the 11th Field Ambulance during
Wow.
World War II, and he landed on Juno Beach 2 days after D-Day and went through France. He went through Belgium, the Netherlands, and Germany. So that's probably someone I would like to send it to, and obviously we can connect over email on that. But I think he would like seeing that, and they can probably put it up in the Bonnyville Legion. That's where he's from, Bonnyville. So
Beautiful.
that's pretty far north, to my understanding.
All right, man, I'm gonna ask you one more question. It's how I end all my episodes.
All right.
And I guarantee with the news articles you've done and the interviews, I guarantee you no one's ever asked you this question. And I'm going to issue you a challenge that if you have a conversation going with a veteran and it's going pretty light, I want you to ask one veteran this question because I would love a
Okay.
veteran's answer, okay? But they a 100-meter pigeon carrying contest. How, how many pigeons could you fit in your arms? You're not racing against anyone, it's just a time race. How many would you have left in your arms after the 100 meters?
After 100 meters? Probably not many because I would drop them and they would probably fly away. So, uh, gosh, maybe about 10? I don't know.
10? Okay, that'll put you about the top 11% of my guess.
Really?
But yeah, my guess yesterday, and funny story, I had a comedian on with me that used to do tours he was on USO tours with troops.
Well,
And this is a weird connection with this podcast. So I had a US flag flown over in Iraq for a day because of some of the stuff I used to do, and I got these American soldiers hooked on Tim Hortons. So this guy's like, we're gonna fly a flag for you for today, but not tonight, because we have these Canadian comedians coming to play a show for us. And this is in Taji, Iraq, a base in the middle of nowhere in Baghdad. So that comedian I had on yesterday was that same comedian that was performing for those troops in 2010.
wow.
Yeah,
That's incredible.
isn't that wild?
What are the odds?
This random comedian I met who's open for like Matt Rife, Joan Rivers, Dr. Phil
Wow.
was on the same base where this flag was flying with my little name on it back in 2010 in the middle of Iraq and nowhere.
Wow. That's incredible. I love that story.
Yeah.
I love that. Oh, wow.
All right, everybody, go check out all the links down there. Normally, I say go like, subscribe, share, all that cool shit. My daughter tells me to say, well, this time go to Zach's page. Like, oh, you're over there. Like, subscribe, share, watch some of those videos. And they're a little hard to get through, but man, you got to keep this memory alive.
Absolutely. Thanks again for having me on the show, Dave. It was a pleasure. And thanks
You're
everything
welcome.
for what you're doing. I think it's a great show and giving people a voice to talk about their passions. And yeah, thank you so much.
So there's your challenge, though. You got to ask one veteran that pigeon question when things are going fine again. We'll have to do a follow-up. I'll put a clip. It'll be a clip from it or something. All right,
Sounds good.
everybody, don't forget to say one nice thing to one person every day of the year. You can change someone's life.